Hello and welcome to the Cyber Den, your weekly dose of tech and games. I, Jake, will be chatting with professional actor Aysha Selim, better known as the voice of the healer sniper Anna from Overwatch. Thanks for coming, mate.
Hi, how are you, Jake?
All's well on the Cyber Den, thanks.
Good.
Now, Aysha, your CV is really impressive, I must say. I mean, you've got things like actor, director, author, localizer, and dubber. The list goes on. So, let's start off with the dubbing and localizing work. Since you've worked on the Arabic dubbing for no less than Disney, please tell us, how did you actually get into that field of work?
Disney had already been dubbing for like 7 movies before I joined, but they were launching the Disney Channel, and that was in 1997. And they went to the American University in Cairo at the theater department there and asked if they could recommend someone for the job. And they talked to someone who is a friend of mine, and from what they told her what the job description is, so she had recommended me. So I met with two from the department, Disney Character Voices International, and they hired me. So I was working for Disney for 10 years as their creative and operational manager for the Middle East Arabic dubbing.
What was it like working on Disney movies of all things? It doesn't sound like easy work to me.
Actually, I have to say it was loads of fun. And to think of, like, I grew up with Disney movies, and it's like you bring out the child in you when you say you're working for Disney. It's like, it's almost surreal, like Disney, like Snow White and all this stuff. And of course, dubbing was sort of very new in the region. We're not a dubbing country. So it was challenging to start to work that first year, and nobody knows exactly what we're doing. I didn't even know what time code was and stuff like that. So it was a learning process, and Disney gave us a lot of support. But then the challenges comes along the way, like things that you're not supposed to say. You have to be culturally sensitive, yet at the same time preserve the essence of the Disney movie. And of course, the idea that we're in the Middle East, we're quite laid back, so deadline, due date, and stuff like that, you're fighting on a daily basis with people you work with.
Do you have a favorite Disney movie, perhaps?
It used to be Little Mermaid until I worked on it because it was a nightmare. I actually like all the Disney movies in particular, but it's the Little Mermaid. I still think it has a very special place. But now, over the years, it's become Beauty and the Beast.
Very good choice. After all, you can't beat a Disney movie, especially one with Gaston in.
Exactly. Yeah, you would make a very good Gaston, by the way. Your voice.
I can't argue with that, really. Dismissed, rejected, publicly humiliated. Why, it's more than I
Can
can
you
bear.
sing?
Oh, don't get me started. Once I start, I won't stop. Bit of a fun fact, actually, for you and for many of the listeners out there. One of the companies that I actually voice for, online company who does online videos called Law in a Minute. The company who was making that, Maker Studios, that, funny enough, got bought out by Disney. When they said, Jake, we'd like to start paying you for your work. At first I was like, is this a spam bot? But no. My grandparents were absolutely over the moon when they discovered this, and I was like, but it was only a fluke.
I can imagine that, yeah.
Now, like you were saying, you've been doing Disney dubs, translations, things like that. You've been doing it for almost 10 years, and I believe you left to study at university, and you also did a bit of acting at university as well. If you could tell us more about that.
Acting, that was the phase when I was still an undergraduate. I did a bit of acting, of modern dance, and directing, but that was like in the 80s. And then when Disney closed the office, I decided I want to go back and do my master's degree. So it was lots of fun to go back to university actually and being a student again. And I did that in teaching Arabic as a foreign language because I was always interested in the language, and I had a friend who did that once, and I thought, oh, that's very challenging. And I'm always interested in linguistics. I remember when I watched My Fair Lady as a child. Oh, and I said, oh, I want to be like him. Like when I hear someone, I can tell from where he or she is coming. So I started doing that. I did my master's, and at the same time, I joined a company that my friend owned for subtitling. She was doing just subtitling, and she suggested that I join and do dubbing. So, and this is when Disney came back and did the dubbing with our company. So I've been like for 20 years literally doing Disney.
Now, you've taken part in many projects, but most famously these days as the long range healing sniper Anna from Overwatch.
Yes.
So, please tell us, how did you get the role? Do you enjoy playing the character? And if so, what is it that you like about her?
How I got the role is actually very funny because our company localizes for games for a company in Italy. And suddenly we get that email from a company in London that they are trying to cast this character. At that time, she had another name, I guess. And all we had was a brief. So I read the brief, and it had to be someone who can speak English, but not with a British or American accent. It's just that could be any accent, sort of understandable. And it says like it gave you an idea about the character and how strong she is, but at the same time, she's a mother and the age range and all that. So actually, I was looking at it as a job, like trying to find the people who fit the profile. And I didn't test. I believe we sent like four voice samples or five, and then they came back and said no, they don't like the voice test. So I said, okay, I could try. So I did that, and I read. They had two segments. One of them was like really very strong military style, and one was actually apart from the trailer of the Anna origin, the letter to her daughter. And then I got the news that I got the role. But you have to know that that time I had no clue. I'm not into video games. So for me it was okay, it's just another role. I had no idea what it I knew about games and just like these one-liners. But the thing is that while were working on it, because they were directing me via Skype from LA, I got to know about the story and the characters and how they related to each other. And so I got more into the character Anna. And I like her because she's very much like me, actually.
If there's one thing I like about Anna, it's the fact that she seems very motherly, especially on the battlefield of all places. I just love her warm hospitality, even when she's trying to pick off enemies from afar.
Mm. And in the States, they refer to her as Anna, not Anna.
I'm sure people will cut some slack for me and my lame
No, no, I'm
pronunciation.
just telling you because for me it was also Anna. So I said, no, 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 it's Anna. I said, okay.
I suppose Blizzard Entertainment were a great bunch to work with.
Actually, it was a very interesting and very professional. I had Andrea, the head creative director at Blizzard. She was my director, and she's amazing. And also Michael Chu, the writer, was with us because it's like I said, why am I saying this line? So Andrea would refer to Michael, and the thing is that you have the script and they tell you like give three interpretation or say it in three times, and if they like it they mark it, and we just send them at the end of the session the whole Pro Tools session of what we have recorded. But they had already made their choices there. And I also had a special director for the sounds, the screams, and the all these sounds, the emotes that I have to do.
Well, that must have been pretty challenging stuff trying to yell into a microphone enthusiastically.
Yeah, but because of my background in dubbing and knowing about the mics and how to deal with the mics, it was okay. I knew about it, so it's not like wow, I'm in that room and so on. But when we started, they were very long session, like 7 hours long, and because of the time difference, like if it's 9 a.m. in LA, it was 7 p.m. here, And we would go, we didn't mind. We like Egyptians are night people, so we didn't mind working till 3 a.m. in the morning. So it was lots of fun, I have to say.
So what do you think of the game's popularity and the many fan-made comics, cartoons, animations, and so on that feature the Overwatch crew, including Anna? See? Hey, I got it.
Yeah, you got it right. To be quite honest, I have in the office a colleague who is very much into games, and he like kept saying, "You don't know how huge that is. You don't know. I can't believe you're Anna and all that stuff." And it's every time I look at him like, "You're nuts." And then I got invited to BlizzCon last November in LA. I had no idea how huge this gaming community is. It was like another totally new world for me. And it's like, is this for real? Like, the, how dedicated fans are and how they take it so seriously. And now it's recognized and in esport. And it's a quite very successful game. And meeting other talents who are playing roles in Overwatch, that was really something very special. It felt like being in a family, although we have never met each other before, and it was fun.
Would you be up for going around to more conventions and meeting fans in person again?
Absolutely. That was really lots of fun and very inspiring, and it really was. No, I would love to.
Have you been to many?
No, actually, that was my first. I've been invited to one, but that was just before the week before BlizzCon, and I said, I can't. So I'm already like preparing everything for LA. It's almost a 20-hour flight, and I couldn't like be on another plane just the week before.
Well, crossing fingers that they'll be able to see you.
Yeah, it was really nice.
So would you be up for more video game roles?
You'll be very surprised. I'm like sort of loyal to Anna, and I just think it will confuse. Um, it's because it's not really was a job for me. I enjoyed doing it, and it was about the fun of it. So I would like to do something another game that soon, close to Overwatch, but definitely later. But I like to be a voice actress anyway. I don't mind that. Because I remember like listening to an ad years ago on the radio, and it was in London. And it said like with radio as much as with voice acting, there's nowhere to hide, which is very true. That's all you have to deal with is your own voice.
Now, when I was researching into you and your background, I was actually quite pleased to see that you're an award-winning short story writer who won a Madeline Lamont Award for creative writing back in 2007. So please, tell us more about your writing. Are there any stories in the works at the moment?
Actually, again, I do this for fun. I grew in a sort of like a literary family with my father himself was a writer and playwright, and he had his own first experimental theater in the Middle East. My mom was an English literature professor, so I was always exposed to reading, and then I started like writing. So I had write very short stories if anything touches me. It's not like I go and say, okay, today I have to write. No, but I think in terms of writing, and I express myself better in writing than in speaking. And so when I went back doing my master's, so I submitted, I think, three of my short stories, and it was a committee at the university, and I got an award for that. And actually, I had some published in magazines before, but that's in Arabic.
No chance of me picking it up and going, yes, let's check out this, did the butler do it? Do you have any inspirations for writing? Perhaps a favorite author, maybe some favorite books?
I have a lot of favorite books. Off the top of my head, I would say Milan Kundera's The Unbearable Lightness of Being. The other one of Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude. These would be my favorite.
Aysha, it's been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you, Jake, for having me.
Is there anything you'd like to say to all of your wonderful fans out there, the entire Overwatch community? Please, the floor is yours.
I would tell him to keep playing Overwatch again and again and again, and to play Anna so that Anna can stay in the game.
And I would personally like to thank all of my wonderful listeners out there for tuning into this great interview on the Cyber Den, your weekly dose of tech and games. See you later, Aysha. Thanks for coming on board.
Okay, bye.